I had something completely terrifying happen to me at 13 back in 2018, and it caused my insomnia that I struggle with to this day at 21. Buckle up, please. So, quick backstory. I was in my second year of middle school, and all was going well. My state of mind, my family, friendships, they were all stable, and things were going great. I was one of the few kids who wasn't really impressed, especially when it came to horror movies. I watched Insidious, 2011, when it first came out, and slept soundly that night. Lol. My mother was the main reason I got into horror movies to begin with, and had never feared, but rather loved them. I was always an early bird, and always had energy for the day. I'm talking I would go to sleep at 7:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. every single night, and wake up at 4 a.m. ready for the day. Never had sleep issues, and only ever had the occasional nightmare prior to the turn of events I had experienced. The house we had been at for the entirety of my middle school years was in a semi-rural area, but nothing remote, that's for sure. Our area also wasn't known to have high crime rates or weirdos. I also lived really close, so I usually walked every morning. The coolest part wasn't even that I lived near the school, but I had a very spacious, finished attic room all to myself. Damn, I missed that place. On to the story. I was like a little more than halfway through my school year. Grades were doing fantastic. I was actually an honor roll student, and woke up as usual to start my day at 4 a.m. I remember having a pleasant dream of me flying through my town like I was Superman that previous night. I went down to the kitchen, and I remember that morning had been particularly gray, and there was moisture in the air because the windows were fogged up and you could barely see out of them. I began pouring myself a bowl of cereal at the island in the kitchen, which was more toward the back of the house. There was a window which looked directly into the kitchen from the backyard. The only caveat was that this window was 7 feet off of the ground, so from the ground up to the bottom of the window, unless you were a basketball player from the NBA, you sure as hell wouldn't be able to see into the window, let alone peer inside. And the backyard was fenced off. As I'm pouring my cereal, I hear 3 distinct and deliberately spaced out knocks. It didn't even register to me what was happening with the first 2 knocks, and wasn't until the third and final knock on the window that I looked up, and there it was. The windows were foggy, but I could clear as day see a pale/dark gray figure standing there menacingly and motionless, just watching me. It was featureless as far as I could tell, but it was definitely humanoid in terms of bodily proportions. It didn't appear to be wearing anything. It was as if it was naked, at least from the torso up. Remember how I said that the height from the ground to the bottom of the window was 7 feet high? Well, this thing, whatever it was, had been comfortably standing high enough past that threshold where I could make out its head, shoulders, and upper/middle torso. I sat there, milk endlessly pouring into my now flooded out cereal bowl, as I had the most terrifying staring contest with something I can only describe as a true wake-up call. About 10 minutes of just being stuck, I suddenly snapped out of my frozen stupor and set the milk down and slowly began to back away. And the moment I hit the entrance of the hallway, I turned around and ran up the stairs so fast I nearly broke my wrist because I had ran up them so fast that about halfway up I resorted to all fours. That of course woke up my parents, and I told them what happened, to which my dad replied, "Okay, give me a second." And he took his sweet time getting out of bed, and by the time we got back down the stairs and made it to the kitchen, the thing was gone. The walk to school later that morning was surreal, to say the least. The real issue came after that experience that day. I was still pretty stirred up by the whole situation, but halfway through the school day, I forgot about it and proceeded as usual. Later that night, I found it very hard to get to sleep, which was not usual for me at all. And I always kept my windows open at night since I was in the attic, so most of the summer heat went right up to me, so I made sure I had decent airflow. But I'm lying in bed watching cartoons. It's about midnight by now, when I hear unusual movement outside my window, and I chop it up to be nothing. About 20 minutes go by, and suddenly whatever it was stops moving. And following that, all of the usual ambient noise goes completely dead silent, except for the few cars driving by and the stream near our house. I again think nothing of it and finally find myself able to begin drifting off to sleep. That same night, I had the most terrifying sleep paralysis episode of my life. This wasn't the Hat Man. This wasn't some random dark figure. Whatever the fuck it was demonic. I was stuck in this sleep paralysis for 5 minutes straight. The atmosphere of my room was dark and gloomy, and all I could do was stare at this dark, shadowy figure staring at me just beside my window. Its eyes were a fiery reddish orange which pierced into my soul. It had very twisted horns, and its hands were instead claws, like this was straight out of a horror movie. It didn't do anything besides sit there and stare at me, and when I finally woke up fully, it was gone, and it was daytime. I proceeded to experience the same terrifying sleep paralysis episodes, struggles to sleep at night, and movement at night for 6 months straight. There wasn't a single night where it didn't happen. The icing on the cake was that every 3rd week, this thing would be in a new and terrifying spot. I remember one night as clear as day, where I had been stuck in my sleep paralysis for almost 10 minutes. I had rolled over in my sleep, I guess, and was facing the wall. I was stuck there with this thing breathing down my neck. When I woke up, I literally began to break down and cry. It was just so overwhelming, and it had been happening every night. There was another night when I fell asleep on my back, and the damn thing was directly above me, gripped into the ceiling, staring down back at me. Then, seemingly for no reason at all after those 6 months, the first day of the 7th month, it all stopped. By that point, a lot of damage had been done already. I wasn't doing too hot in my classes. I was falling asleep in school. I had no energy for anything. I was borderline terrified of sleeping at night. I had been in and out of therapy. My parents really couldn't do anything besides support me. I went on to, fortunately but barely, graduate that year, and moved into my final year of middle school with higher hopes. Everything went well, and I managed to make a solid comeback. Skip ahead to the end of my 8th grade year. We just got out for summer break. It was July. I had recently turned 15, and my family had ended up moving back to an old apartment since the rent was a bit lower, and I was preparing for high school later that year. Halfway through July, the same exact sleep paralysis episodes come back, except this time, there's 2 of these fucking things now. I'll never get this image out of my head, but on the first night that I got sleep paralysis again, right at the foot of my bed was the demonic figures just peering over the edge of my bed, staring at me again. Those episodes lasted for 3 months, and then I never had sleep paralysis again after that. Thanks to whatever it was that had tortured me, I now struggle with really bad insomnia. Like some nights I can't get to bed until morning, which at times isn't until 7 a.m. And as an adult now, I've had to learn remote jobs just so I can keep sane. It's not even that I'm scared to sleep, because trust me, if I could get some decent sleep at night, I would take it any day. But I literally just don't get tired. And even when I am tired, I can't find myself in a position to just drift off anymore. If anybody has had a similar experience they can share, or can at least explain to me what happened, I would greatly appreciate it. My fiancée stopped sleeping after we moved into our house in the Appalachian Mountains. I wish I had listened to her. My name is Alex, and I've lived in the Appalachian Mountains my entire life. If you grow up here, you learn the difference between being scared and being cautious. I've heard coyotes that sounded like screaming women, foxes that could make your blood run cold, and black bears wandering through yards in the middle of the night. There's almost always a reasonable explanation. About 3 months ago, my fiancé and I bought a small house deep in the mountains. The nearest town is about 20 minutes away, and our closest neighbor is over a mile down the road. We wanted the quiet. We wanted to be left alone. For the first week, everything was perfect. Then she stopped sleeping. Every morning she'd tell me she'd heard something walking around the house. Not random noises. Slow footsteps that circled the porch and stopped outside our bedroom window. I'd tell her it was deer or a bear. She always shook her head. "They're footsteps," she'd say. "2 legs." I laughed it off. I'd spent my whole life in these woods. I figured she just wasn't used to how loud the mountains could be at night. For almost 2 weeks, the same conversation happened every morning. She'd look exhausted. I'd tell her it was wildlife. Eventually, she stopped arguing with me. Then one night, I woke up on my own. She was already sitting upright in bed, staring at the window. Without looking at me, she whispered, "Do you hear it?" At first, nothing. Then, crunch, crunch. Slow footsteps outside, not pacing, walking with purpose. I listened, waiting to hear 4 feet moving through leaves like a deer or bear. Instead, the sound stopped directly beneath our bedroom window. Then came something that still makes me uncomfortable to think about. Whispering. I couldn't make out words. It sounded like several people quietly talking over each other, just low enough that my brain kept trying to understand what they were saying. It wasn't coming from the woods. It sounded like it was right outside the glass. My fiancée grabbed my arm so hard her nails dug into my skin. "I told you." I got out of bed, unlocked my gun safe, and grabbed my hunting rifle. I honestly expected to walk outside and find a bear standing against the house, or maybe someone messing with us. I stepped onto the porch with a flashlight in one hand and the rifle in the other. The yard was empty. I swept the light across the tree line. That's when I saw it. Standing just inside the woods, maybe 30 yards away, was something I still can't explain. It was unnaturally tall, pale enough that the flashlight caught it immediately. Thin, almost impossibly so, with long arms hanging at its sides. It wasn't hiding behind a tree. It was standing completely still, looking at me. I don't remember seeing eyes. I don't remember seeing a mouth. I just remember knowing it was looking directly at me. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. Then it leaned forward slightly. Not like it was getting ready to run, more like it was curious. I fired. The rifle echoed through the valley. The thing turned and disappeared into the trees faster than anything I've ever seen. It didn't crash through the brush or snap branches. 1 second it was there, the next it wasn't. The sheriff came out the next morning. He searched the property, checked the woods, and eventually told me it was probably a bear or someone trespassing. There were no tracks, no blood, no signs that anything had been there at all. My family doesn't believe us. Most of our friends don't either. The truth is, some days I don't know what to believe. Maybe my fiancé's lack of sleep got into my head. Maybe I saw something ordinary and my brain turned it into something else. We moved out 11 days later. For months afterward, neither of us talked about it. Then, while unpacking boxes in our new house, my fiancée found an old phone she'd used when we first moved into the mountains. She was scrolling through old pictures when she suddenly froze. "Alex." I looked over, and she'd gone completely pale. She handed me the phone without saying another word. The photo had been taken almost a week before the night I saw the thing. It was an ordinary picture of our backyard at sunset. She'd sent it to her sister to show how isolated the house was. At first, I didn't understand what she was trying to show me. Then she zoomed in on the tree line. Standing between 2 trees was a tall, pale figure. The same shape, the same impossibly thin body, the same place I'd seen it that night. Neither of us had noticed it when the picture was taken. I've stared at that photo more times than I can count. What bothers me isn't that it's there. It's what happened after I looked closer. The figure wasn't facing our house. It was facing deeper into the woods, like it had been watching something else. I don't know what scared me more, the idea that it had been there long before we noticed it, or the possibility that whatever it was watching eventually left the woods and came to our window. I truly feel like the sheriff knew more than what he said.